Can I just tell you, I'm just gonna say this. I said it to a couple of groups that I've already been coaching on today, but yesterday for me was absolutely fantastic. Normally in my in my coaching or the things that I talk about, I don't really talk about this. For those of you that are in courses with me, I yesterday what I talked about was really quite personal for me. I haven't really let that out of the bag. And it was, there's parts of it that are, somebody could view it as really rainbow hearts and unicorn farts. I totally get it. But it's because we're so addicted to the outside world, we don't know the inside world. And so, it was really good after the course yesterday, and we ended early. And I said, I asked people they could stay on if they wanted to. And we stayed on and people finished writing up. And then I asked if anybody had any questions or wanted to talk about anything. And man, we had such a really, really great discussion, and I very much appreciated it. But I'm just going to do a short little recap of yesterday real quick. I really talked to you, for those of you that remember, I asked you from the very beginning, can you trust the process? Can you trust it? Because I did it in a very different way than I normally do it. But I really hit hard, I think, for me, I really hit hard the gap of where I believe most people are struggling or suffering, where most people have questions that aren't getting answered. Matt and myself, we were pastors of a church, and we both have grown up in the church. Matt is a preacher's kid, if you want to call it that. I haven't called you that in a long time, because you have kids that are probably the age you were when we stopped calling you a preacher's kid. But Matt and I came from the church, and we had, we were pastors before. And to change the thought, to have an experience and change my thought to where we weren't pastors anymore, that identity had to change for me. The way that I saw the world, the way that I looked at the world, I had to change and adapt in a new way. And that's why I asked, can you trust the process? Because I will tell you, I want to help people to experience some things, but I can tell you this, and you might want to write this down because this was really impactful for me the first time I heard it, is you can't experience what you cannot express. You can't experience what you cannot express. And so for most of us, we live most of our time in our intellectual mind. And we get rewarded in it. In our world, we get rewarded for the intellectual thoughts that we have. We go to school, we get stars and grades and, degrees and, numbers behind and letters behind our name that show some sort of awareness that we have. But when it comes to creation, well, that's a whole other ballgame. I can go to school and learn how to count. I can learn how to count money. I can learn all kinds of things about different industries and everything. But for me to go and find a job and create a lifestyle that I want, that's not really taught in school. And so most of us have all this education and we can't figure out, why can't I get where I want to go? Why can't I do that? I don't know how to do that. Why isn't somebody teaching the how? And so that was what I tried to go through yesterday, is to give you your own how. You are the how. There is no mommy or daddy coming to rescue you. There is no coach coming to rescue you. I'm trying to be as honest as I can. There's not somebody that's going to come in here and fix it for you. It really is a study of yourself and really getting your own attention. And most of us will hide in society and think society will figure it out. And I don't need to. Society will figure it out. And I think this is the downfall of us right now, is being able to think for ourselves. And it really is about individual consciousness that can help develop a group consciousness. And most of us, we would rather die than think. In fact, it's so uncomfortable to go in the rainbow hearts and unicorn farts thing of what we want in our imagination, because we've been so disappointed when we've gone into our imagination and not gotten what we wanted. And so then we look at everyone else, and this is why I don't get it. And it's because of you and you and you and you and my mom and my dad, and everyone told me that I can't get it. And this is where I wanted to not talk about the fluffiness. I wanted to talk about the truth of, it's not going to be under someone else's watch. It's going to be under you. You are the how. I had a time where I was talking to a very large group of people, and people raising their hand going, well, how do you do that? How do you do that? How do you do that? And finally, I've been talking about my how I did it. And finally I said, you know what? You are the how. You can argue with me all you want, because I'm not your how. You are your how. We've got to study you to understand your own how. And that's where studying and understanding your own energy centers within yourself. I wasn't here yesterday to talk about chakras or to talk about any of that kind of stuff. I'm not an expert in that. But what I did talk about is what I have experienced, and I can express it really well because I've experienced it and I use it habitually for myself. And so one of the things that we talked about yesterday is this energy center within us to find our own how. The first energy center you have to have is support, the feeling of support. What does it feel like to be supported? I just want you really quickly, we're just going to do something quite simple. Some of you have been on calls with me and may have heard this before. I'm just going to turn my view because I like to look at everybody, but I was on the view. But if you could just close your eyes for just a moment, and I'm going to just take you through this simple little process, but close your eyes. And I want you to go into your kitchen, in your imagination. Don't go in your kitchen right now, but in your imagination. I want you to go into your kitchen. And on the counter in your kitchen is a beautiful lemon. And I want you to go over there and pick that lemon up, and I want you to smell it. And in your imagination, I want you to peel the lemon, get all the peeling off. I know it's probably a little bit messy and tough, but just really get in there and get that rind off. The sun might be shining in and you see it spray a little bit. And what I want you to do is I want you to divide that lemon, now that all the peel is off, I want you to divide that lemon into two. Right down the center, just pull it apart. And then I want to take one of those halves and I want you to pull that half apart again. So now you have, two sections. And I want you to get a cutting board and a knife. And in your imagination, I want you to take one of those sections and I want you to cut it crosswise. I want you to grab the salt shaker in your kitchen. I want you to pour salt on that lemon. And then I want you to pop it in your mouth and I want you to start chewing. Keep chewing, keep chewing. Okay, open up your eyes. Can you tell me what's happening right now? Do you notice anything about yourself right now? I mean, I don't know about you, but my saliva glands are going, yeah. Yeah, you really feel the lemon. That lemon was not real. That lemon wasn't real. And yet you had a physical response to it. But it wasn't real. You set up an energetic match to where your saliva glands took over because it was just the thought of it. Imagine if you had the thought of success. You knew what success felt like. You knew what support felt like. You knew what those things felt like in your body. And I will tell you, your body will know what to do with it when you feel that way. Most of us are filled with worry and doubt and a lot of anxiety. I hear lots of people say, I'm really anxious about a lot of things. And it's like, okay, why would you want to choose anxiousness? Or people, listen, I believe some of those things are absolutely real. But there also is another way of looking at it in the world, and that works too. I will hear people say, here's one that I talk to many people about when they approach me, is they will say, I'm confused. Why would you want to choose confusion? Why would you not want to choose, I would like to have clarity? Do you know what I'm saying? It's such a small little shift that puts you in the driver's seat of, I'm able to do it. And it's these small little things. It doesn't, it's a very complex thing to be able to start manifesting the life that you want or the vision that you want to have. It's very complex. And some of us make it extremely complex. Like, I can't move forward unless I have a degree, unless I have education about this, unless I have somebody else who qualified me to say that I'm good enough. Man, we live in a society like that. What are your qualifications? Well, your results are your qualifications. What kind of result are you having right now? I have people that can come in and tell me all kinds of things about stuff. They'll tell me all kinds of stuff of what they know. And I'll ask them, what are your results? Well, what do you mean? What are the results that you're getting with that idea that you have? Is that really the true cause and effect of getting what you want? Is knowing about it really the true place? There is where we want to be, and here we want to go. And if you are up enough in an atmosphere of it, when you look down, there are not understanding of the true cause and effect yet. This is why people will say, well, I know this. You don't know it because you're in an atmospheric idea of it and you've never done it before. That's really nerve-wracking to people. It feels uncomfortable. You don't feel supported. As you take action, you may start having some feedback. I call it feedback. People say failure. I failed and I don't like the feeling of fail, so I'm going to quit. Let me just tell you, failure is one of your best gifts, because failure actually gives you feedback. But it's what you do with the feedback. Do you react or do you respond to the feedback? And most people, they react to the feedback. The reaction shows what the paradigm is. But what would happen if you embraced it and you say, ooh, I want to have more understanding about that. Instead of reacting, I want to understand. That puts you in what I call feminine energy. It's not me calling it. That's just how we identify it. Especially when you study the natural laws, there's a really big misunderstanding right now, because we're having a big shift of not moving away, but we've embraced masculine energy. I'm not talking about male energy, and we are not going to get in here about female power and male power. That's not what I'm talking about. Wrong quadrant. I'm talking about masculine and feminine energy. I'm going to use it just as something simple in nature and how we naturally are, about sperm and an egg. A sperm swims upstream, an egg is in receivership. And we're moving now into an age where we've been doing a lot of masculine energy, a lot of force, a lot of moving forward. And now we're at a place where we're coming to a point of examining what we've done, and we're in what's called feminine energy. Feminine energy is about receivership. It's about learning to receive. Some of us, as we study ourselves, we're so afraid to go into feminine energy, into receivership. But I will tell you, you cannot have something new. If you think about the sperm and an egg, it comes from one thing and another thing, and it makes a new thing. You can't have a baby all with sperm, and you can't have a baby all with a seed. You have an egg. You have to have the sperm and the egg come together, and something new is created. And so in your idea, you can have a forced idea about what you want, but you also have to take the feedback. Most of us are really big givers. We give and give and give and give. and we don't get back what we want in return. We're not in a place of receivership. Now, when you go into a place of receivership, this is really where I believe those energy centers will really help you get into a place of receivership. You've got to realize when you're going into receivership, and what does that mean? What does that feel like for me? I will tell you, it took me a while to understand the feeling of receivership in my body, because I had been protecting myself so much, I wasn't in receivership. I know I was in a resistant state of just about everything, because the reason I was in a resistant state was because so much was put on me that wasn't truly me. And I started responding. I started reacting. I wouldn't say respond. I started reacting to things. And the older I got, it escalated more. I started finding my voice more, to the point where I was like, I've got to listen to myself. I wasn't listening to myself. I was really, Matt is quite lovely, but I really cared what Matt thought about me more than I thought about myself. I thought about pleasing him more than I asked myself what I wanted to do. And there was a period of time where we had 2 storefront businesses, and we were working about 10 to 12 hours every day. We owned a restaurant and a catering company. And I mean, it was lovely. And we got all kinds of awards and accolades from our community, but we were at a mindset where we were receiving $5,000 a month. That's not a lot when you're raising 3 girls. It's not a lot of money to live on. And I didn't really like how I felt. And I went to Matt and I said, I want to do something different. And he was like, listen, this is our life, get on board with it. My parents both passed away, and I just couldn't function. I got to a point where I just said, I can't keep doing this. I can't keep giving of my life and not being able to take time off to grieve or do what I want to do, because I was just doing what everyone else wanted me to do. And there just came a point where I said, what do I want? And an idea came to me, and it just seemed ludicrous to me. Turn my annual income into a monthly income. And that just seemed far-fetched. But I will tell you, I began to do a spiritual practice with myself. And 2 months later, I turned my annual income into a monthly income. I made the decision to go for it. And trust me, there came a lot of chaos with that. You see, there's always the matter to be dealt with and the incidental energy that's around it. So there is the essential and then the incidental. It was essential that I had this goal. Matt had a feeling about it as well because of his paradigm. And so this all of a sudden became an energy that was around me. See, if I grew up in a very religious part. And so I had a belief that the man was supposed to go out and provide. And there was a time and a feeling, not because Matt wasn't doing it, but because I wanted to express myself differently. I went out and found a way of what I wanted to do. I found that I was pushing Matt to do something that I actually wanted to do. And I stopped pushing him. Go out and do what I want you to do. And he was like, I'm drowning here. This is about all that I can do. And finally I said, why am I pushing him to do it? I'm capable. I'm able. I'm capable. And so I went out and did it. I believed that I could do it, but not really thinking of the ramifications of what it did. And all of a sudden, this big belief of, if I'm providing, if I'm making an income, who am I now? Who am I in the relationship? And I will tell you, you would think making $50,000 a month is a really good thing in your relationship. But I will tell you, Matt said, if you're making that, then who am I? I remember my mother and my mother-in-law both saying, this was before I did it, but the story that I heard is, don't ever show up your husband. Don't show your husband up. But what was me making 50,000 about showing Matt up? It was just a desire that I had. Do you see, when you have an essential, you got to learn to deal with all the incidental. And the moment you take your eye off of the essential and put it on an incidental, now that's the essential. And you go to the back seat. And it took me a while to find this inner support for myself, because guess what? Matt was working out a whole bunch of stuff as well. We've been married for 33 years. And so if you think about, when was 2016? 7 years ago? It wasn't like Matt and I just got married. We had been married and built a habit with one another for a long time. And I changed the habit. When you start putting things in that you feel like you're ready to express, what you have surrounded with yourself will not be ready for that frequency jump. And they may question you about it. And when you get questioned about it, you don't really have a way of articulating it quite yet. Because I will tell you, I didn't. And I remember not being able to have reasoning and logic to talk to Matt about what I was feeling inside for myself. And then the question came up one time. We had some friends over and we were talking about the changes that were happening. And one person, without thinking, was trying to offer some help to Matt. And he was really tuned into Matt. And he looked at me and he said, you stole his power. And I was just done being the butt of everyone's problem for not succeeding. And I will tell you, my daughter felt the energy inside of me, and you saw my daughter's chair just go like this. Because I went nuclear. I just got so angry and I thought, how come my success takes away from someone else's? What does my success have to do with taking away from another person? And I began to understand we have what's called entanglements. We're entangled with other people's energy. And so we don't know how to ask ourselves, what do I want? We don't know how to shine brightly. I remember my mother telling me, it isn't about you all the time. Don't be so selfish, And I remember thinking, as I was studying this material and I was going after what I wanted, and I thought, why is that so selfish? Because if I could really help people with this idea, why would it be selfish that I'm going towards it? I mean, who would not want to figure out a way to enjoy what you're doing and receive the kind of money that you want to receive by helping people, and they're thankful for you helping them? I mean, this was a quandary. How many of you have met this quandary for yourself, where you're like, if I go after what I want, it's going to inconvenience other people. It may inconvenience my spouse, my children, like all kinds of things. And it's even to the point that I didn't want to betray my own parents for teaching me the way that they taught me. I didn't grow up with this. My mother was a stay-at-home mom. And that wasn't what I felt called to do. I wanted to be an innovator. I wanted to be a thinker. I wanted to express my energy. I had dreams and goals and ambition. And it was like, when I got married and had children, it was like, no. And Matt had the same thing. He had dreams and goals and ambitions, and he got married and he said, I guess I can't do that because I'm doing this. Do you know the universe really loves the word "and"? But you have to let go of what you know to create something new. The technologies that were available back then aren't the same technologies that are available to us today. And I had to learn new ways of doing things, new innovative ways of seeing my life and doing my life. Let's just I know I'm sort of taking you on a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I want to go through a couple of things to build a new idea here. If you think about before COVID happened, the idea of letting children learn at home, the education system, can people learn from home? And No, we can't do that. Kids can't do that. They got to be in the school building. They got to do it. And COVID happened. And guess what? Oh my gosh, children can learn from home. Some kids even thrived. Some kids even did better. Some kids struggled. But there's a way for everyone. And we have this narrow way that it has to be done. You know, I think if I was left to my own devices, I think I would have been through school and college much, much faster. But I had to go at the pace of everyone else in my development. Sometimes I wonder if we put on other people what we think needs to happen rather than having ourselves ask ourselves, what would I love to have happen? You know, there's a funny thing. I watched this program about people who came and live in the US and they were immigrants, and their fathers, you know, two guys became friends, and they talked about some of the things that their fathers put on them as they came into the US. And one of the things was one of them, their dad wanted them to play the guitar, and he hated playing the guitar. And he fought his dad this whole time, and his dad was like, no, you're going to learn to play the guitar. And so finally, when this boy is now a man, and he thought, I wonder why my dad wanted me to play the guitar so bad. And he felt bad that he never fulfilled this dream that his dad had for himself. And so he went and he asked his dad, why did you want me to play the guitar? And he told the story of him as a young boy telling his father he wanted to play the guitar. And his dad actually gave him a beating and said, we don't have time for that. So in his mind, he said, when I have a child, he will learn to play the guitar. His son didn't like playing the guitar. He was like, no, 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 you don't understand. If you can learn to play the guitar, you're going to have happiness. I don't want to play the guitar. So when the son was older, he bought his dad guitar lessons and a guitar for his birthday. And his dad took one guitar lesson and said, I hate playing the guitar. How many of you have said, if I have kids, I'm going to do it better? When I have kids, I'm going to do it better. I want my kids to have more than what I had growing up. And we start giving them the things that we want to have. And guess what? It's not what they want. Have you noticed that? That's not what they want to have. And then you're trying to force them. What we're doing is we're actually recovering a part of us through our own children. And at some point that has to shift around, and we have to be able to say to other people, what do you want? Not what I know, but what would you like? And you know what? I can actually hear what other people want. And I know the feeling, the energy on the high level. I hear the conversation. I don't try and solve it in the density. I think you should do it this way. I don't solve it in that density. I try and solve it in the spiritual idea of it, and not have the picture for them, but hear what their picture is. And I think we are coming out of a society right now of institutions saying this is how it has to look, and people are walking away saying, I don't think you have to do it that way. It really bothers lots of people when we start saying, I don't think I want to do it that way. Boy, I'm really going to step in it right now. Sorry. But when COVID happened, I made a decision. I didn't want to get a shot. I made that decision. I'm not here to debate that with you, nor am I here to debate whether you got it. I don't think it's either right or wrong getting it or not getting it. But I do think it's a right for you to decide that that is good for me or that's not. This was the first time, I think, in history where we really said healthy people are a threat. And for some reason, that energy, when it showed up for me, I just went, I'm not doing it. The energy alone, the fear, the worry, the doubt was not something I did not want to subscribe to. Now, that might be hard for some of you to hear, but when it comes to goal achieving, that's what you're going to have to face sometimes. Some people say, well, that's ridiculous. I know the medical world and blah, 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 blah. And yet, guess what? Never got sick. 57-year-old woman, overweight, and guess what? I did not get sick. Surprise you? Not me. I flew, I traveled, I did all kinds of things. You're probably saying, how could you fly? I live in Canada, but I'm a US citizen as well. So I could go back and forth between both countries. So I couldn't fly in Canada. I would go into the US and I would fly until they stopped that. But I traveled and did what I wanted to. I went to Florida, I went to Colorado, I went to Las Vegas, I went to Hawaii, I went to Spokane, I did all kinds of things. Is it possible that I heard what was happening and I understood what was happening and I never broke any kind of law with it? I just made the decision that, you know, I will follow what everyone's saying, but I'm not going to stop what I'm doing because people have fear that I might be sick. I know that's really difficult for people to understand it. I know it can make people very upset, but it existed during the time as well. It worked. I traveled with people that did get vaccinated and they felt good and I felt good and we never questioned one another. It is your right. It is your God-given right. But how many people said, wow, I can't do this because people say I can't do this, and stopped living their life? I didn't stop my business. My business actually grew. It's a mindset. You really begin to see how outside influences will come in and start telling you things and how adaptable you are to other people's ideas. You know, they talk about survival of the fittest. The idea of how are you surviving? Are you going within or are you letting outside influences tell you, I'm not an, and what is it called? The people that anti everything. I'm not that. I'm not that way. But I definitely can feel things when I say, I don't think that's a fit for me. I don't think it's a fit. And it's my right to be able to say that. And someone can say in our society, it's not your right to do it. And this is what I really loved about Frankel. Oh, what's his name? Frankel. Matt.
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl. There we go. Thank you so much, Matt. Can you read that little quote you have on your desk? I used to have it on mine. I took it off. I need to put it back on. He put it in the drawer. Terrible. In between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is your willingness to choose. And that's if you don't know who he is, he was somebody that was sent to a concentration camp. And he, even though he was in that environment, he had his own mind.
And in your willingness to choose is your, what does it say? Your freedom.
Your freedom. Yeah. We got to get that quote back out. It is this idea that when you really see in your masculine and your feminine energy, when you really begin to use those two things, you create something really quite beautiful. I talk about my relationship with Matt. For a long time, Matt was the masculine energy in our relationship. He was the one that was driving it all the time. And I was in feminine energy. I was the support person in our relationship. And then there came a time I wanted to self-direct. And I came up here and I said, I think this is what I want to do. And he said, that's not how it works for us. I understand that, but this is what I want to do. And he said, well, I don't think it's going to work. And I said, well, I really would love your support. And he was like, no, I don't want to do it that way. And I said, I want to do it this way. And we did this. And then finally, Matt was like, wow, you're getting really great results in this. And so he came down here and he became supportive. And then there was times where I was using my masculine energy and I would get a little bit, not sure of myself. And I would come down here and I would say, what do you think I should do? And he would say, you just got me down here and now you want me to pop up here and tell you what to do? And I said, yeah, I do. He was like, well, I'm not doing it. I'm staying down here with you. You figure it out on your own. And so I did. I found somebody to come and help me. And then he said, wait a minute. No, I want this with you. I want this connection with you. And so then we began to see how things would change for us, where he may say, I think I need some support here. And I could pop up here and become the masculine energy. And sometimes I would come down here and he would pop back up. And what I realized is that our use of masculine and feminine is what brought the wholeness to our relationship. Now, I don't need him to do that. I wanted him to do it. There was a period of time where he said, I don't want to do this. And I went and got the support that I needed outside of him. And he said, wait a minute, I'm just not willing to do this. And he had a change of heart and he said, I'm willing to do it. And I embraced it because he is the most important person to me. Now I can say this with absolute clarity. I love myself enough to allow myself to be loved by him. And there was a period of time when I said to him, when he wanted to stay in the masculine energy with me, as I said, I don't need you. I don't need you for this. I want you, but I don't need you. And he said, I would rather you need me than want me. And I think that's what most of us are doing today, is we're saying, no, you need me. And it's like, no, you don't. You may want them, but you don't need them. Can you feel that in you? The difference between needing people and wanting people. I think that's what makes a healthy community, is when you want to be there. You don't need to be there, but you want to be there. You want to be in your own growth. You want to see reflections of your own growth. And when we get into this thing where we're codependent on one another so much, I can't move forward unless you do what I want to do, then we have a problem. We have a lot of masculine going on. And we have that right now. You can really see it. You can see a lot of, I can be a female in my genetics. I'm a female. I don't know if that's the right way. In my genes, I'm a female. But I can have masculine energy. That's confusing for some people. We have names for females that have masculine energy. A lot of times we call them a witch. We don't have language a lot of times to see strong women and celebrate strong women. And we have males that also can have masculine energy, and we see them as captains and commanders and all kinds of things. And we're used to that paradigm. But what happens if we have a male that has feminine energy, where they are in receivership, where they're supportive? We don't really know what to do with that. We don't really know what to call that. We don't really know what to do. What I really found out about Matt is a really great supporter. He actually, when I think about it, I mean, we've talked about it a lot. I think as we were figuring out our marriage and we were figuring out our kids, I really love working. I do. I love working. I love expressing myself. I love doing things. And, Matt really he's a homebody. He loves being at home. He loves doing things around the house. He loves being at home. And we have very different ways of doing life, but we've sat down and talked about it. And he says, I would have loved to have stayed home and been with the girls and did that kind of stuff. And our society, I think, would have looked a little bit weird. My kids are almost in their 30s, and it just looked a little bit different back then, right? But the idea of, we have a bit of confusion, I don't want to say confusion, but we have a bit of clarity needing in our society right now, because we're moving into masculine and feminine energies, and we're confused at the density of the male and female right now. So we have people doing things that, they want to fit in. They're trying to figure out feminine energy right now. We have feminine energy is not female energy. It's understanding masculine and feminine energy. And I think as we begin to go through these energy centers of yourself, of support, of all of these things that we went through yesterday, you begin to see there's masculine and feminine on both sides. You begin to see that there's polarity on both sides of support, what it means. So that's why your picture is so important, for you to tap into a feeling of, what does support feel like for me? What does strength feel like for me? What does love and heart feel like for me? What does communication and using my voice feel like for me? What does wisdom feel like for me? What does openness feel like for me? How can I tap into those energy centers when I'm moving my energy forward, when I have an idea and I'm moving it forward? How do I not let the outside world dictate how I should feel on the inside? How do I tap into myself in that marvelous creative world internally and answer questions for myself? The only reason that I believe we are left wanting is not because of what's happening in society. It's because of a belief within ourselves that we haven't quite figured it out for ourselves. And sometimes we want someone else to figure it out for us. And really, it is a habit, a spiritual practice of learning about yourself. It's not really all the information you know. There's tons of people who know all kinds of information, and they can't get what they want. I love this one quote. I'm just going to pull it off my shelf really quickly. It's from, I did this one program with Bob Proctor, and I really love Bob Proctor. But he said, he talked about starting with intensity when you're building this new self-identity. And we're going to talk about self-identity next. But when we talk about our self-identity that we're doing, and we start building this image of, who am I going to be now that I am this? Where do I want to go? Is, he said, start with intensity. Don't be distracted by the know-it-alls who is behind in their installment payments. So whenever I talk with somebody, I'll ask them, what are your results with that? Tell me what your results are. Are you just talking to me about a theory, or are you really living it? How is it showing up in your life? It's not because I want to judge them. It's that I want to understand. You may know it intellectually, but how are you moving it into the 3D world? It'll tell me a lot about how you feel about yourself in the spiritual world, about who you are, the I am within you. How are you at tapping into the I am, the infinite? Because every answer is already here. Are you in a resistive state of the I am, or are you in, what would happen if I could let go of the way I've always done it and discovered a new way to do it within myself? He said, a person who is doing their best today is truly alive, but a person who did their best yesterday is stagnant. So a person that's doing their best today is truly alive. But the person who did good yesterday, sometimes they're stagnant. This is why goal achieving for me is so important. It really is the survival of the fittest. It really is putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, not for the sake of being uncomfortable, but to go after what you want and know you're going to face uncomfortable moments. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Those moments when you decide for you, that's the cave I'm willing to go into. I'm willing to go in there. You're able to go in it, but are you willing to go into it? And I look for people in my life. I want to hang out with people who are willing to do it. I already know they're able, but I want to hear the willingness. Are you willing to go in there? You know, it's really interesting. I can get in with conversations with people that are curious about what we do here at Elevate You. They can be curious about it. And Here's the first question that they want to know. How much does it cost? And I'll say, I don't know if I want to work with you yet. People are shocked. I don't know if you're a fit for me. Just because you have money or don't have money, that doesn't dictate a fit for me. I want to find out if you're willing to do it. I know you're able to do it, but what are you willing? And I want to hear what your goal is and what are you willing to go towards? And if you already know stuff, then why are you asking me for help? I don't have the answers for you, but I can help you get into a space to hear yourself. And most of us, we're afraid to hear ourselves. We're afraid to know the greatness is within each one of us. Each one of us has this ability to create. I mean, it is magnificent when you tap into it. And what we tapped into yesterday and we live in the glory of it yesterday may not work for today. Listen, the earth goes around the sun every single year. It's changing and evolving and moving. And some of us are doing the same thing that we've done year after year after year. And our results are getting less and less and less and less. We're having what's called diminishing returns. And I want to invite you to get back into yourself, get back into asking yourself, what do I want? And maybe the way you've been doing it isn't working for you anymore because we are in a state of evolution. Some of us are doing things almost in, I can tell you, I have a few of these myself, by the way, but we're almost at the Pony Express way of dealing with our goal. We did it that way 20 years ago, and we're going to keep doing it that way. And yet everything has changed. Some of us are still doing things that our parents did, or the way that our parents, it was funny, Matt and I, we both had a philosophy of earning $5,000 a month. And I realized that was what both of our parents made. And we stayed in the income that our parents made, but yet everything had gone further. And this is where I really started changing the way that I thought. I'm grateful for what my parents taught me, but I have to expand on that idea and go further. And I've got to allow my children to go further than me. I got to release the ideas that I think it has to be done this way. We're going to see things change so dramatic over the next few years. Things that took maybe 10 years to do, people can do it now in like a year. Things that we did in a year, people can do it within a day. Things that they did in a day, we just do it in a moment, in a second. It's really incredible what's happened to us. We have Elon Musk building a rocket to go to Mars and back and to land. People said you can't do that. A rocket can't land. Well, yes, it can, and it is. The Wright brothers, they were told that you can't fly. Their dad even rejected them and told them that if God wanted us to fly, he would give us wings. They were bicycle mechanics. Who are they to be aeronautical engineers? Who are they? Bicycle mechanics? Like, seriously? But they figured out a way to fly. You think about all of the great innovators didn't do it in a narrow way of doing it. When everyone was zigging, they zagged. Where is it right now that you really feel called and you feel like everyone's going this way and you don't fit in, but you're trying to fit in and it doesn't fit? Listen, that's the time to zag. Your body is telling you zag. Your mind and your body and your spirit and your soul is trying to bring out the real you, and you might not be listening. Somebody told me one time that the sign language for a headache is this. And that's really two ideas, which gives you a headache, because you have two ideas that are, and some of us have a lot of headaches or a lot of aches in our bodies and everything because we've got too many vibrations going on, too many things that are, going in the opposite direction of one another. And it really can feel uncomfortable. I broke away from a lot of what I know and continue to break away from a lot that I know to discover new things about myself. And it can be scary. Working with Bob, if you told Bob a goal that you had, you are done for. He would convince you to jump. And let me tell you, I'm so grateful that he said, jump, you'll develop wings on the way down. I try and help people jump. You'll develop wings on the way down. You will. You will develop wings on the way down. And it's getting yourself in an environment. Now, I can tell you with my own children, I love them so much that when they go out the door, I will say, be careful. My children don't even live with me. But as soon as they walk out the door, I still will say, be careful. Why? Unintentionally, I'm betraying their own advancement without realizing it. I've stopped saying that. I've started saying, go create, go create, go do it. How many of you heard when you were going out the door, be careful, be careful? How many of you want to launch a business and you'll have somebody come and tell you, be careful about that. Oh, and don't forget about that. And oh, don't forget about that. I'm going to be really mouthy right now. Any dumbass can tell you how it won't work. It takes a really, truly incredible person to see beyond what's going on right now. It takes imagination. What does it feel like to be imaginative? You know, most of us were really imaginative when we were younger. How many of you remember playing house? I remember being out in a field where there was a whole bunch of tall grass and it was kind of the fall time and it was dying off and we made tunnels through it and it was my house. And I remember having my own space. Marcy, yes, I totally remember that. Yeah, do you remember that feeling of having your own space? Or I remember getting some kind of container and it was my own container and I used it in my bedroom, my own box. I put my own stuff in the box and it was my box. Do you remember that feeling? Do you remember the feeling of having maybe a dishwasher delivered or a washing machine in the big, big box and you made a house out of it, or you made an airplane or a spaceship or something like that? And it was real to you, or a race car. Do you remember how fun that was and the feeling of it and the thrill of it? I will never forget the feeling or the thrill of having my own house in that lot down the street from where I lived and making tunnels through it. It really impressed me. And I will tell you, having a house to this day, my own space, is really, really important to me. It's extremely important to me. I love my house. I love the space I live in. I have a beautiful view. I see the water. I love it. And I feel the same way I was as a kid when I walk into my house. Every time I walk in there, it's like I feel that feeling that I had on the lot when I was a kid. That feeling never went away. How many of you have feelings inside of you and they don't go away and you're not sure how to express them yet? Yeah. What would happen if you took those energy centers and you found a way where it would work for you? What I thought we would do is I thought we would talk about your homework. And I thought we would just go through each of the things and the picture that you have, and maybe it'll inspire some of us that we're looking for pictures that we have. So the first one that we talked about was the energy center of the one of support. You know, I talked about a big beam for me. Did anyone have one that they would like to share of support? Paula said her bed. I love that. That's the feeling when you lay on your bed, feeling of support. I love that. How many of you, we could just do this little exercise really quickly. You don't have to close your eyes, but you can imagine. I just say close your eyes, but you don't need to. But imagine yourself sitting in your chair for one moment. and feel your chair lift you up rather than you sitting in the chair. Feel the chair come and lift you up. It's a really different feeling. I tell people when they lay on their bed, don't lay on your bed, feel your bed come up and lift you up. That's a feeling, excuse me, that's a feeling of support. And most of us don't have that feeling in our body of being supported. Start with something as simple as just sitting in a chair or laying on your bed or laying on the couch. Whenever you sit down, even if you're driving in a car, feel the car lifting you up rather than you sitting in the car. It's just a different perception, but that idea makes a big difference. Who else has an idea of support? Did anybody else have a different picture? I gotta get down here. I don't usually read these. Roots growing deep under my feet. I love that, Lisa. Yeah, Jamie.
Mine is a little different, so I thought I would share.
We love
I
different.
actually think of music, and so I wrote a music note, and it's because music grounds me and it feels like it's coming from the inside out instead of needing something external.
Yeah.
So very different than some of the ones shared, but thought I would share that.
I think that's so good. A lot of times I listen to music to ground me. There's sometimes when I'm listening to it in the beat of things and just the rhythm, and just sometimes it helps me to feel like I'm in the wind or whatever, but it does support me. You are absolutely right. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's such a great idea. I loved what I started saying what Lisa's was, and I love the idea, Lisa, about your roots going down into the ground, the feeling of that. It took me a long time in meditation to really, I guess, ground myself, because my mind was traveling all over the place. And it was like, are people looking at me? Do I look weird? I had all kinds of worries and doubt about myself. It took me a long time to go inward and ask myself, what do I feel about this? It took me a long, long time to figure that out. Yes, Marcy.
I thought of a couple things. One of my, I guess my cover photo on my Facebook page is of a young girl in like a painted mosaic floating, right? And on water. And so if I'm in the ocean and I'm floating on water, and salt water is very buoyant, right?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
feel very supported. It just
yeah.
feels great. And then one other quick one I'd like to share is I did some personal growth work in where you go for a weekend. And one of the things that they did is they would gather a group of people around and lock arms in sort of a line. And the person that was receiving the support, they would lie them back gently down over all the arms, and a song would play. And the person generally got quite emotional because it's probably the first time in a long time where they've ever feel supported in something, right? So it was very powerful.
Good. That's so good. I love that. Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I saw in the chat, somebody put, I think it was Kiana, she said, at feeling as if I have a military or security guards behind me. I think that's so, that is, what, when you have that strength that's around you, or that support that's around you, you feel like, some people will call those your guides or your angels, or just something that's around you that is there to support you as you're going through it. There are times that I do tap into the feeling of I am supported, and I do have special forces with me. There are times that does help me feel supported, but I do have somebody backing me up. Really, really good. Yes, Suzanne. Okay, well, we'll go to the next one. So the next one is, okay. Okay.
And my support is nature. I feel very supported when I'm around trees and nature, hugging a tree. I mean, feeling the energy coming up from Mother Earth and going into the sky, that whole energy. I feel very, very protected and supported from what nature offers us in the water, everything.
That's great. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, a lot of people feel that idea of support by being in nature. You know, I was watching, side note, but I was watching a thing about mushrooms, a documentary about mushrooms, and it said mushrooms is somewhere between a plant and an animal. It's somewhere in between. And the closest to the species of a mushroom really are humans. And I went, what? That I'd never heard that before. But how they are connected to one another. They have a community. And they actually, when you go out into nature, did you know that when you step on, when you're in the woods, things are decomposing and things are regrowing in itself. And when you step in it, the energy of your step goes through 300 miles. It'll go out in all directions. That's how interconnected it is. I think about us being on Zoom or being on podcasts or stuff like that, or being in a community, live in a community. And I think about we're like that as well. Energy travels through us. And man, when I started really thinking about the idea, we actually are from, I'm using the wrong terminology here, but I don't know, I can't remember the exact name of it, but we come from it. In our evolution, we come from mushrooms. And I went, wow, I've never heard that perspective before. I shouldn't have talked about it because I'm a little bit ignorant about it, but it resonated with me. I went, wow, I really like that idea. So the idea of support, feeling support in nature, seeing support in the feeling of it. The other one is strength. When you think of strength, what do you think of? I think about a resounding, my ability to send out energy. A lighthouse can send out, a beam to people. And that's being a singer, the strength of a singer, that they send out the vibration. That's the feeling that I have when I think of it. What do you have? Oh, somebody put another one. Let's see. My feeling is being supported by creators, by the creators world. Like Suzanne said, the garden. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Even when they don't show up, it's there. Nature is there. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's good. So when you think of the idea of strength, what do you think of? What's the picture you have in your mind when you think of strength, when you've got to tap into being, you could look at it as courage, the strength. Sometimes I look at, am I going to be yellow bellied, or am I going to be like the sun and go? What kind of thing do you have? So Jamie, you said mountains. You can always reach higher than you think you can. Yeah, I believe in your mind. I love that. Yeah, the idea of mountains. Listen, if you want to unmute, you can. I mean, put your hand up and we'll unmute you and we'll have a chat. Because listen, sometimes these ideas really help other people challenge themselves to say, wow, I'm not going to use the idea of mountains, but hearing it from her, I'm like, that's a great picture. It does add to my picture. Do you know what I mean? It's not right or wrong. It just adds to the idea. So what kind of ideas do you have about your strength? Does anyone want to share? Yes, Lisa.
Mine is a funny one. I love Thor, so I love my armor and my Thor hammer hitting the ground and reverberating out from there.
Now, is it the Thor with long hair or short hair? No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I know what you mean, though. Yes, strength. The armor of knowing that that you have the strength to do that. Yeah, when you think about strength, the idea of protection, if I don't know if that's really it, but the idea of protection, or the hammer, you know, that you've got that power within you. That is really, really good. I love that picture. Like a warrior. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Let's see. Some of these go small and I can't see. You can really unmute. I promise nothing bad will happen. Strength to clear pathways emerging from invoking the mute button on the camera of thoughts. Stephen, come on and let's talk about this. Let's hear it. I'm going to unmute you and see if you'll come on. There you go.
No, so I think very often if you look at obstacles that get in your way, very often there's just other voices, other messages, and to be able to, excuse me, to be able to get back to your focus and your primary direction. If I want to go east, why are all these messages about going west and north and south even part of the discussion?
Yeah, muting, being able to mute. I hear you. I hear you about that one. That's really good. Yeah. You know, and I used to have, I might still have it. I'm not going to look, but I got one of those buttons from Staples. Well, that was easy. And that became my strength feeling for a while. Well, that was easy. I don't have to put so much force. Well, that was easy. And that feeling of strength within yourself. Well, that was easy. Because sometimes I think if I have to have strength, it's got to be hard. Ugh. And sometimes it's just, yeah, that's easy. Could that be the strength that you have? Or the mute button? I like the mute button too. How do I make the decision to mute things out? That's easy. I love that idea. You know what? Courage, the opposite of courage is not cowardice. It's actually conformity. It's when we conform to things, we don't have the courage to go forward and do things in a new and different way. And we're able to do it. Yeah, it's good. So the next one was heart. When you think of a heart, what do you think of? Or, you know, the idea of the love center or the heart center. You know, some people might have the idea of blood pumping through, of circulation. That's kind of how I think of the heart, is circulation. What do you think about it? What are ideas you have about the heart? Is this getting, yes. I thought I heard someone unmute. Someone unmute? My dad takes his hearing out when he did one. Paula, yes. Yeah, that's his strength. I'm just gonna zone out. Yeah.
When we had a dog, you know, anyway, the clothes were being ironed and the hearing aids dropped out of the shirt pocket. The dog ate the hearing aids, and my dad went, "Yay!"
Yeah, the strength to hear your own voice instead of what everyone else is saying. Yeah, because I can tell you, it can just be so, yeah, too much. You got to go in and find your own strength. You got to shut the noise out. Yeah, it's really good. Let's see, Tina, I think my heart is my compass. I love that. I love that. When you think about your heart, you know, sometimes I have felt times in my heart, or in that chakra right there of, I didn't mean to call it chakra, but anyhow, that energy center for me is just, sometimes I can feel moments of circulation, or moments of, yeah, I'm pointed in a direction. This is what I would love. Sometimes I really do just see circulation about things. I just see it's going to come around. You know, I don't like the feeling of feeling like I'm going to miss out. So when I see something in my heart, or I get into that energy, there's more than enough. That's the feeling that I have. It's overflowing. My cup is overflowing. I think about, I want to pour into that. I'm not running on empty. You know, the feeling of empty. Have you ever ran on empty? And you just don't have the heart to do it. And I find that, you know, that feeling, there's moments where I'm doubting myself, and I can go into that feeling and I can say, it's going to be okay. What would I love right now? What can I circulate differently? Yeah. Good. Anyone else? No. I keep hearing people come on and they mute. Okay. Here's another one. Communication. When you think about your throat, I think about my throat and that energy center in my throat. What picture do you have of it? Sometimes you can think of the idea of, you know, a foghorn. I want to get my message out. Sometimes I've gone through moments of that. Sometimes you can feel choked off. I've gone through periods of time with that. But if I want to tap into it, I think about water and the flow of water. That's how I tap into that I'm easily understood. When I communicate with people, sometimes I do need to be the foghorn that talks about things, and sometimes I just need to be still. Yeah, Lisa said a river flowing with ease around the mountain. Music for that one. The music communicates. Yeah, words can't. Yep, that's really, really good. Yeah, light language. Somebody put light language. Ears and throat, reading myself and others. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Britt says my throat feels repetitive. I love that. Who's Britt? Hi, Britt. Can you come on and talk, or are you in a space you can't? She might be in a, hello? I love the idea though. Sometimes it is. Sometimes you're sending out a message over and over again. I can. Okay, good. Let's see. Do I have to unmute you? Maybe I have to unmute you. Can you hear me, Britt? Marcy said to be still and let the voice inside you speak to you. Yeah, sometimes just getting really, really still, listening to your own voice is really important. And most of us, we're so busy listening to everyone else, we aren't listening to our own energy center there. Next one is wisdom. The idea of Britt must have got kicked out. Hello, Britt. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I had to go into my settings. Yeah, but about my comment, yeah, sometimes I feel like, the intention of like being kind of everything you talked about from the beginning of kind of being in your own power, like asserting yourself in a certain way of like trying to express yourself, but then how do you get to this place where you're using your voice or using the things you say to, I don't know, like, yes, of course you can't pass anybody's personal boundaries, but sometimes like just talking and expressing yourself sometimes seems repetitive. Like it seems like sometimes you don't want to express yourself by using your throat, but kind of like just holding in and seeing how other people walk around you at times. Because I've also been in speaking arrangements and put on community gardens and stuff before. But when I got in the garden with students or other people, it was more about the action we could do in the garden and the spaces rather than what I could teach them. And I just feel like that, yeah. So just seeing different kind of dynamics, because I feel like sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm so repetitive in what I have to say. And maybe is it me? Is it how I'm saying it? But yeah, that's my comment. Sorry.
It is really interesting. Communication sometimes isn't really about speaking, although sometimes it is. But if you think about a mother nursing her baby, there's a communication that gets done there without using your voice box. Do you know, we read energy, we communicate in different ways. And I just found it interesting that it does come at that throat chakra, but there's times where it closes off for me, and I know I've got to find another way to communicate. Sometimes I can really walk into a room sometimes and I can feel Matt's communication, how he's feeling about something. I'm sure you've done the same thing where you've shown up and you've gone into a room and it's got a different energy, and you can say, I know what's being communicated here, or I don't like the feeling of where I am right now. You can sometimes walk into an environment and say, yeah, it doesn't feel that great, or this feels wonderful. And so communication can happen in different ways, but I can feel it in myself. And when I want to communicate, I will ask myself, how do I want to communicate this? Doesn't necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean speaking. It can even be just a gesture with somebody. Sometimes even just, when my mother was passing away, just putting your hand on somebody to say, I love you. Sometimes it's just looking at someone. I could listen, if Matt and I are at a party, I can just catch his eye and we'll look at one another and we're communicating just by looking at one another. Sometimes he's like this, let's go. Or sometimes I'm like, let's go. And so, or it's like, I love being here, or I love seeing you across the room. Think about your kids at a concert and they look to see you, and just how you look in your eyes will communicate something to them. You don't have to use your voice, but there's a power about you in your communicating. The thoughts that you have, your intellectual thought that you have. Yeah. The picture of wisdom. What do you have when you think of wisdom? I think of tapping into infinite intelligence. I see the picture of just a white light for me. That's what I do. Yeah, somebody said 80% of communication is nonverbal. Yeah. A light bulb. Yep. Cassie. Yeah, I like that. The idea that when we communicate, or when we tap into wisdom, when we're tapping into ourselves, to me, sometimes I think of I almost see like the DNA, I can tap into my genes of things that have come to me through generations past. Every generation passes on its wisdom and it comes to us. We have wisdom stored in our genes from one generation to the next, to the next, to the next. Isn't that amazing to think about that? That even though I got things from my father, they're actually things that my father received from his father and his father and his father, just all this wisdom. And so that's why sometimes when we're walking into situations, it'll connect our energy with it. And we're like, you feel it on a visceral level. And you're like, what is that about? There is a wisdom that comes and you won't even know why it's there. And is there sometimes you have answers to things and you have no idea why did that come to me? It's because it's already stored within you. You're just recognizing it on a visceral way of that energy, of reading that energy, very visceral. You'll feel it and you'll say, wow, that resonates with me. And that's really your inner wisdom of knowing. It's a wisdom. And when you can think about the wisdom, and you can be grateful for it, and you think about it, it's beautiful. It really is. Somebody said, I think of the liquid light from heaven pouring into my brain. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. When you think of, I see myself with just infinite intelligence. It's almost like a big starburst that's coming together. Yeah, it's so good. Infinite universe, the vast starry skies, certain stairs lighting my path. Yeah, beautiful. These are all beautiful ideas. Yeah, love it. That wisdom is for all of us. It's not given to just some. It's given to us all. If I told you your success is absolutely guaranteed, you can learn to tap into the infinite. I didn't know that. I thought I had to tap into the infinite with intellectual learning. But really, when I got still with myself, I did know the answer to things. Took me a while to go inward. That's the secret. That's really the convoluted secret, is all things are already there for you to tap into. The last part is openness. When you think of being open, what picture do you see of you being open? Yeah, Jamie.
I had to share on this one because this has been really huge for me lately. And I think of the infinity symbol, which I know you've taught us so many great things about it, and I know it means different things, but to me, it's this idea of infinite possibilities and the openness to be aware of them, to allow yourself that. And so anyways, it's been an amazing gift that I've started to be aware of and am grateful for. So I just wanted to share.
Yeah, anything is possible. When you think of anything is possible, you know, the feeling of that feeling, what would happen if you could have that feeling with you at all times? Anything is possible. I feel, when I feel that, it really feels like when I tap into anything is possible, I really do wrap myself up with an imaginary blanket that's come out of the dryer, you know, just that feeling, that warmth. It's really healing. When I'm open, I really feel healing in myself when I'm open. It's when I'm closed off, you know, it's a struggle. And it's just, what would happen if I could just be open? Yeah, somebody said I just get giddy. Yeah. Being open sometimes can be really, really lovely. Oh, hello, Jay. Welcome to the discussion. I'm assuming that's Jay. My dear friend Jay. Hello, Jay. You know, what's really, really great is when you start working with these energy centers and you play in them, you play within those energy centers. When we were done yesterday, Lisa said to me, she said, I know you're not talking, I know, you know, you're not talking about the chakras. She said, but I do want to ask you a question. Where does desire reside? Desire. You know, what's really interesting is desire. I really love, desire has really, really changed for me over the period of time for me. What I knew of desire when I was younger, I think was more of, I would say more of the idea of desire when you were younger. You know, when you think about when you're in your teens and your early 20s, you have this pulsating desire, this thirst for so many things, you know, this unquenchable desire for so many things. And in Napoleon Hill, he dedicated a whole chapter called Sexual Transmutation. And, you know, I remember when I first got the book and I saw that chapter, I was like, oh, this is, I'm not sure I want to, you know, look into this. You know, I grew up with the idea of sex was something to be very, you know, hidden, very quiet. It still, I think, is a bit of a habit for me, but I think I use my desire actually in really my support, which is so interesting. But Lisa brought up a point. For some, it may be even sending that out. But what I really have learned is that the desire that I have is this idea. I'm going to be a little bit graphic here. I don't mean to offend anyone, but you think about the idea of, you know, you have a partner or whatever, and you're feeling a little bit happy about life, and you say, hey, you want to go into the bedroom, you know, you want to get, you know, excited about something here. And, you know, you go into the bedroom, and if the other person says, hey, I'd like to talk about our water bill, well, that just kills the desire, right? The desire absolutely can be killed, because desire can be interrupted by something. It can be very interrupted by energy, and we get kind of upset about it when it gets interrupted. That's what passion does. Passion and desire does that. But I can tell you, if you think about the idea of the stimulus of getting all worked up in a desire, especially when you think about the idea of sex, and I'm not here to talk about sex, but I'm here to say, you know, when you get to a point where you come to an orgasmic state, and pretty soon it just covers you, and you just get caught up in it, and it just releases. That part of it takes on a life of its own. That desire, that passion, where it just takes over and you just let yourself go. That feeling can show up in many different ways. It doesn't just have to show up in sex. I feel that way when I'm working towards my goal and I see it coming together, and then I just get swept up in my goal, and it just comes to fruition. And there's more things than I think of expressing it. You know, when a plan comes together, the feeling of ecstasy when things work out the way that you want them to work out, the pleasure of your passion going in force. It feels great. What would happen if you could live in an ideal state of mind where I am moving towards this encounter of it all coming together? That feeling of going into desire, that feeling of going into pleasure, that feeling of living from the end in mind, that expression of the end in mind. You want to have that sexual transmutation within you. And it's not about having sex with someone. It's the feeling of the anticipation, the desire of it. It's all coming together. What kind of picture do you have when you think of that? That is an energy center in us. And I'm really grateful Lisa brought it out. Like I really am grateful that she said that, because man, I can talk about it, but I you know, there's still a bit of fear when you talk about passion. Makes people feel uncomfortable. We don't have language really to talk about it quite yet. At least I haven't experienced a lot of people who want to talk about desire and passion. We have a very narrow view of what desire and passion look like. We know a lot of stories of Hollywood and what they tell us what desire and passion looks like. Do you want to play a little game before we go? It's kind of fun. It has nothing to do with sex, but it does help you come to the, yeah, Paula's like, oh my gosh, where is she going? Okay, I want you to pick your favorite color. Write your favorite color down. You don't have to tell me what it is, but write your favorite color down. And what I would love for you to do is write down 3 deep feelings you have about that color. Pick your favorite color and write down 3 deep feelings that you have about it. I'm going to play some music while you're doing that, if that's okay. Next thing I'd like for you to do is pick your favorite animal. What's your favorite animal? And I would love for you to write 3 deep feelings that you have when you think of this animal. Like, don't just say, oh, it's cuddly, it's cute. Like 3 deep feelings that you might have about that animal, describing it. Next, I want you to pick a body of water, your favorite body of water. It might be a lake, a creek, a river, hot tub, toilet bowl. I don't know. Pick something. And 3 deep feelings about it. So how many of you, does anyone want to share their favorite color? You can put it in the comments. What's your favorite color? And you can put maybe what your feelings are. When you think of that color, what do you feel? It's a great exercise to do with people. If you're going to have a conversation with people, ask them these questions. So Matt put green. When you think of green, Matt, what do you think of? Francis, purple, royal, healed and powerful. Like, yeah, love that. I don't know if we have people writing. Yeah, lavender, dreams. Oh, there we go. Dreams, fairies, possibilities. I love that. Blue, soft, peace, flow. Pink, depth, warmth, softness. Matt put life, energy, and nature for green. I love that. You know, these are love, abundance, and nature. Lisa has green as well. Baby blue, relaxing but energizing. I love that. Jody, red, love, passion, livingness. Jamie, purple, vibrant, calming. Purple, we got a lot of purples. I love that. Red and passion, romantic. Yeah, I love that. Sensual, confident, happy. I love that. So these descriptions that you have are ways that you see yourself. The association with color, I like color, is a reflection of self, how you feel about yourself. You might look at it and go, no, that's not it, because your smarty pants brain is going to come in because you've been taught not to talk about yourself that way. But I can tell you things that you like when you do color, it's personal. And it's thoughts of how we, let me tell you, when I look at these and I know the people that wrote them, I'm like, yeah, I totally see that in you. When you think of animal, what animals did you pick? What kind of animal did you pick? And what were the 3 feelings that you had? A cat, clever, sneaky, rebel. I love that, Anne. A deer, calm, steadfast, loving. Love that. A horse, strong, intuitive, challenging. Love that. A cat, bipolar, adventurous, loving. Eagle, strength, freedom, protective. A golden retriever. I saw Paula. Golden retriever, strong, trustworthy, and loyal. Yeah. Dog, loving, curious. Francis, a lion, watchful, speed, fierce. Well, in this idea, in this exercise, it represents, I know it's probably, you're going, how do I know what you're going to ask for? Well, it's just how you associate with things. But an animal represents how you feel about your spouse or your partner. Things that you like about a spouse or a partner or someone. So, you know, one time I had this one guy, I tell this story every time because it was so cute, but this one very religious man, he said, horse, I like to ride her. We all laughed. It was great. It was the least expected thing for him to come out of his mouth, but it was so good. A panda, fun, playful, wears a mask. Oh, interesting, Marcy. Does Warren know you feel?
I think that's where his acting stuff comes in. He has to play different characters.
Has to play different characters. That's so good. Yeah, panda. That's so good. You got to buy him a panda now. So the last one is the body of water. What body of water did you choose? And what were your 3 feelings about it? 3 deep feelings. A beach, calming, warmth, creation. Oh, I love that. A lake, calming, life-giving, constant. Yeah. A quarry, near home, tranquil, calm, relaxing. An ocean, vast, flow, power. Yeah. Yeah. An ocean, yeah. Yeah. Love that. Vast, expansive, ever-changing. A lake at my cottage, calm, beautiful, soothing. A river, strength, connecting and surrender. Waterfall, free, expansive, and powerful. So the way that we look at bodies of water is really how we deal with our sexuality. And it's so funny because when you think of how we've been taught to look at our sexuality is like the ocean, powerful and forceful. That's a lot of Hollywood that's going on. I want that. And you might look at yourself and say, I want calm and yeah. Your passion, passion can look calm. You actually feel more aware of yourself when you're in a calm thing. Some people really like, the depth and expansion and the deepness. And that's really good indicators of your desire and your passion. And sometimes we don't think about it that way. We think about it in just the opposite because we have so much Hollywood story in us that if I don't look this way like everyone else, I must not be passionate. I love a calm lake. I feel very passionate. When I create, I love calmness. I feel when I think of desire and passion, there's just a strength that comes in me. Usually when I get very excited about something, I get really quiet and I get very focused. That's how I get very intense. I love Kalamalka Lake. I live on Kalamalka Lake. And if you know anything about it, there's a lot of limestone. So in the time it turns this beautiful aqua green color, just like my ring. And I love that color. That is like the color of creativity, of desire, of everything. Red isn't really one of the things for me. It's how can I have this idea? And when I started realizing that's how I like to create, I started looking at what my passion looks a lot different than how I think it should have looked. And I started realizing I love to create this way. Some people you have to be in a frenzy to create, passionate, it got to be in a frenzy. That doesn't necessarily equate what passion is. For some, it is. For some, they like the ocean and the rumble and the roar and some don't. Does that mean I don't have passion? Does that mean that I don't have desire? No, it just means it looks different. What's the picture you have when you create? What is it? How do you release that for yourself? I think these energy centers are so important for you to shine bright in the year 2024 is how do you tap into this for yourself? How do you choose a goal? How do you go after what you want and shine brightly? It may not look bright to everyone else, but whatever you are attracted to, you want to become an energetic match for that idea. That's why sometimes when you get to, I'm here and I want to go here, and when you're in that atmospheric idea, this is where I want to go, the empty spaces have to be filled in, and you got to know thyself, know yourself. Start practicing and just every day, just go through your energy centers, or when you're in a moment of frustration or you feel like insecure or whatever, just say, you know what, as a habit, I'm going to tap into this. Do you know what? Some of you will hear this and think, oh, that's great, and walk away and never practice it. Do you know what? The practice, the spiritual practice of it is really where the growth is. It's not about the information. It's about your own growth and your own ability to utilize this for manifestation, to manifest whatever it is that you want. People will ask me all the time, how do you manifest? How do you manifest? Here's the secret. Understand your own energy centers and how you react or respond to things. Most of us, we don't know those for ourselves. That's how you shine brightly. That's how you become an energetic match. You learn how to deal with energy, how it comes to you, how it flows to you. You observe yourself. Most of us don't have environments where we get to practice this in. So here's what I would love to do. I'd love to invite you to have a conversation with us. You know, if you got everything you needed from this, I'm so happy that you were here today. We're going to do these, you know, about every 6 weeks. I really love coming and serving my community. And like I said, I've never taught this in one of my classes before. This is just really me being me, to be honest. Hopefully it was helpful and stirred something in you. But if you want to have a conversation with us to find out more about our spiritual practice, how we help people discover themselves and grow whatever it is that they want, your goal is I know how important it is. I truly do. And I want to help you bring more of you out into the world, because we need more people out there learning to express who they are and not be afraid, not be so worried, not be so concerned, but really come into your own. That's really what I want to help people do. I felt very stuck in so many ways. Everywhere I turned, it seemed like I was told I can't do this. And I was telling myself that. Other people weren't. I was telling myself that. So I had to learn to build that strength within myself. So I want to invite you to a bonus that we're going to have. I love talking about going for it, go for it. And so I'm going to be doing a bonus session called Go For It. And I would love to invite you to it. I think Matt's probably dropping it in the chat. And to do that, to come and be a part of our bonus section with us, I'd really love for you to have a conversation with myself or Paula or Matt. And we would really love to help you with this idea. So if Matt's going to put in here to book a call with one of us, I'm pretty sure we'll probably reach out to you anyway, but we'd love for you to come and attend. Matt's going to be putting out, I think you said this at the beginning, we're going to have replays, and we'll send the link out later today if you want to watch yesterday or today. It's going to be on a private YouTube channel, so we're not putting it out to the public. It's just for people that attended here. So I'm very respectful of people that have attended. So I want you to know that. Anyway, I'm really, really grateful. I'd love to say, to acknowledge and say thank you for you coming and giving of your time and attention and growing and learning about yourself. I would love to thank my team. I'd love to say thank you to Matt and to Paula and Aaron. And I would really like to say thank you. And to my community of people who came and participated, thank you. And for you just spending your time with us. Love to hear more about where you're going and where you're headed. And I look forward. Oh, and Jay, I forgot about Jay. Jay's on our team too. He's just a new guy. My new guy, Jay. But anyhow, I'm super, super grateful for everyone that helped make this happen, and love for you to come back again and join us next 6 weeks from now. Our next one is called Love Fiercely. Ooh, it's going to be in February. I think February the 20th, I think is what it is. But it's called Love Fiercely. Anyhow, if you're on our email list, we'll let you know about it as well. Any closing remarks, Mr. Matt?
I just wanted to say from everybody here, I think everyone can agree with me. Thank you so much, Angie. This was really phenomenal. It was really outstanding, and your transparency is epic. And it's good. It is so good, and we need more people to speak their truth. And that is exactly why you're doing what you're doing.
Mhm.
And the people that come out of your pipeline are absolutely, their lives have been changed because of it. So thank you so much. Yeah, it was
You
good.
know, Matt, I forgot to also mention this. I have a podcast. We did 12 episodes. So you can go on to any podcast platform and you can put in Angie Tomlinson or Elevated Insights. And I do it with my really dear friend Val, and we have just a great time. And I will tell you the ones that have the highest number. We did one on forgiveness. That's probably the highest rated one, is the one on forgiveness. And then we did one on money, talking about the energetics of money. So if you'd love to hear more about kind of things that I work on or grow through, you're more than welcome to go and listen to those. Anyway, I want to thank you for coming on. I enjoy this, and you are welcome to join our Facebook group as well. Do we have the link for our Facebook group that we can put in here? If you've never joined our Facebook group, we'd love for you to. Let me just grab it real quick for you. These are those things that I want to be able to have. I'll put it this way. Copy. I'll put it here in the chat that you can join our Facebook group. And there we go. And I try and come in every week and say something, and we're always growing and dropping new ideas in here, so you can stay connected with us. So thank you so much. Thank you, Matt, for hosting it and giving us really great music, and we'll let you send us out.